Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I get to share with you the 5 cards that I'm making with the card kit for July 2019 from Simon Says Stamp. This month's kit is called Be Yourself, and I want to show you real quickly what came in the kit. And I'm not sure if it sold out or not. It probably did because this was an awful cute stamp set. But if they didn't, I'll link it down below. But it's super fun. There's your stamp set. You get some foil transfer sheets from ThermoWeb. You also get some foilable cardstock sheets and then an envelope. And then you also get some 6x6 pattern papers from Honeybee Stamp. You get 12 of them and they're double-sided. These coordinate with the bumblebee themed really nicely, and I like that they threw in that sea glass blue. It's so pretty. Love the color combination. This month kit comes with sequins, and then you also get a die. This is a hexagon die, and I wanted to see if it would line up on the stamped image, and so I'm trying to find a home for it on here to see if it was possible. And I think you could probably get away with lining it up on this one here. It matches pretty well there on that section. But that's your die, and then you also get a sucker and a glue sponge, which I didn't show you. I had it off to the side, but I did use it in today's cards. So we're going to jump in, and I'm going to do all my stamping at once. We're going to do stamping and coloring and fussy cutting our images first, and then we'll make the cards with all the elements that we colored in. So I took all the bumblebees and a couple of the hearts. I'm placing them in my Misty here, and I'll ink them up with my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. We're stamping on Neenah 80-pound cardstock. Both the ink and the cardstock are alcohol marker friendly. Once they're stamped, we're going to zoom in and do our coloring. The coloring is pretty basic. I'm going to play a little bit of music while I color, and then when I'm done coloring, I will catch you back. Okay, coloring is all done. Now I'm going to use my scissors and fussy cut each one of my little bumblebees out. I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border. Just makes it easy when I fussy cut the little cute little guys. I did stamp another panel and colored in more bumblebees. So we have double of what we stamped originally. And then instead of coloring in the hearts with my blue greens, I colored them in with my yellows. Okay, for card number 1, we are going to start off by die cutting out a panel that's 4 1/4 inches by 3 inches. For card 1, we are making a landscape style card. So I thought when we are die cutting out our panel, we might as well die cut out the little hexagon die on the bottom left corner here. We're going to create a kind of a window in this panel. So we'll just punch this out, and then I'm going to line up the same die right next to the window that we had cut out, and we'll die cut this one, and then we're going to do it a third time. This time we're going to go right above the second one we just stamped. So it's kind of like an L shaped. Okay, once we have that done, that third one that I die cut out, since I overlapped a little bit, the outline of my honeycomb or my hexagon shape here didn't fully cut the right size. So I'm going to die cut out one more outline of the honeycomb there. Okay, taking the same size stitched rectangle die that I had cut out my panel with, I'm going to cut out both pieces of the pattern paper here. And we're going to go ahead and create a window on our white cardstock with some acetate. And we're going to make a shaker card, so I wanted to cover this with a piece of acetate. So we'll just trim this down and place that on our white panel and trim off that excess. Okay, now we're going to stamp our sentiment before we build our shaker. For today's card, I chose Just Because. I placed it in my Misty here, my mini Misty, and we're going to use VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp that. We're going to stamp that in the upper left area, and then I'm going to color in the Just using the same Copic markers that I had used for the bumblebees. We're going to create a gradient on the Just. I wanted the darkest color on the very top and then the lightest on the bottom. The Copics that I'm using, for the lightest, it's Y00, and then this is the darkest shade, which is Y18, and then we're going to go ahead and add our midtone, which is Y13, and then we'll blend it all back together with the Y00. I think it just creates a fun sentiment in that gradient look. Kind of coordinates with the background pattern paper too. Okay, after we have that done, we're going to punch out all the pieces of our little honeycomb die here. And here's where I'm going to bring in my little glue sponge, and I was so happy that Simon had put that in the kit because I wanted to try this out, and it's a pretty neat little tool. I'm going to go, I was trying to find my tweezers, but I couldn't find them, so I'm just going to use my hand to press my outline shape here in that glue, and then I'm going to place it back in its home over the acetate. I think that looks great. We'll do the same thing with all three. We'll place the second one, and then the third one, I have to overlap the outline just a little bit, but it lined up beautifully, so you can really tell. Okay, after we have this done, I thought we would do a little bit of shading. I'm going to bring in some squeezed lemonade. It's distressed oxide ink, and just using my blending brush, I'm going to add a little bit of color right over my die cut images here. When I did this, it clouded up my acetate, but no worries. I'm going to bring in a baby wipe, and we're going to clean off that acetate, and it's going to lighten up that color just a little bit, so we have a hint of color behind our die cut shapes here. Lovely. Okay, we're going to flip this over. I'm going to add some foam tape behind it. We're making a shaker card, like I said, but I'm only going to use one layer of the 3M foam tape. After I have that adhered around all the edges, I'm going to go ahead and add some sequins. I just wanted a light amount. I didn't want to go heavy. I just wanted some of that gold sparkle to be in the background. I'm going to add my pattern paper behind it, and there's our little shaker window. Okay, I'm going to take my card base, and again it's going to be a landscape style card base, so it's the side folding 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. I'm going to place this stripe paper wonky on my card base, and then we'll place our shaker window slightly wonky right over the top of it. And I got a little bit of ink, so I'm using my sand eraser to take that off. Okay, we're going to pick one of our cute little bumblebees, and then we're going to go ahead and use a foam square right behind him and place them right over our honeycomb there. And then we're going to spread out a little bit more of that gold sparkle using a few extra sequins around our little bumblebee. And then I thought we'd bring in a little more gold, so for my little bumblebee's wings, I'm going to bring in some Nuvo glitter drops in honey gold, and I'm going to outline the little bumblebee's wings there. And then that finishes off card number 1. I think it turned out cute. Oh no, you know what I did? I used my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen. and went over the jest, and then I thought we would add a little bit of glossiness using some Morning Dew crystal drops. These are a little bit thicker than glossy accents, so it's going to add a little bit of dimension to that sentiment. And now we're done. Okay, for card number 2, I have a panel I created with the cardstock or the pattern paper. The panel size is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then I'm taking a die that measures 3 3/4 inches by 2 1/2 inches, and I cut out a frame, a window in there, and then I did add foam tape behind it, and I placed it on the sea glass card base that I created with the cardstock that came with this month's kit. Now I'm taking that same size die and creating a background for the inside of my window frame, and then I also cut out 3 clouds. The cloud dies didn't come in the kit. They were from my stash. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my background, and then I wanted to stamp one of my sentiments on the cloud. So I was just trying to figure out which one would work best, and I think the medium size is going to work perfect. For this card, I chose the sentiment that says, "Thanks for being there." I just stamped that with my black ink there. I'm going to add foam squares behind each one of my clouds and place them on the inside of my little window. And then for this one, I wanted to use the little bumblebees that were holding hands. I think that was so sweet. We'll just add a little foam squares behind there and then pop them up on our clouds. I'm also going to use the little blue-green hearts. And then I'm going to fill them in with my Nuvo glitter drops and the Morning Dew. So it's like glossy accents. And then we'll bring in, I'm going to spread out a little bit of the yellow. So I do end up coming in with some of the sequins also. But instead of using the gold glitter drops for the bumblebee's wings, I decided to use my white blizzard just for a subtle sparkle. But after we add all of our little sequins, that finishes off that card. I think it turned out so cute. Love little bumblebees. Okay, for card number 3, I'm going to use the inside window frame from our last card and place that on a panel. The panel size here is 4 3/4 inches by 3 1/2 inches. It's the one with the flowers on it. I went ahead and adhered both of those on my white card base, and then I die cut out a 2 1/2 inch circle with the black cardstock in the kit. I glued that down as well. I am going to use one of the yellow polka dot pattern paper. I cut it down to a 1 inch strip, and then I cut out a 2 1/4 inch circle with white cardstock, and that's where we're going to stamp our sentiment. For this card, my intention actually was to stamp Smart as Can Be, but I had sweets on the brain because I stamped Sweet as Can Be. There's a Smart sentiment, and then there's a Sweet. So I wanted to use the little bumblebee with the glasses because he looks like a little smarty, but I put Sweet, but it went well. I just left it. After I had my sentiment stamped, I went ahead and attached my polka dot paper to my white circle and then added foam tape behind it. This way I can line it up and give that part of the card a little bit of dimension. I'm going to go ahead and add a foam square behind my little Smart bumblebee and place him right next to the sentiment. And then I thought about adding a little yellow heart, but I kind of like the simplicity of that center piece, so I just left it like that. But I did go ahead and use my White Blizzard glitter drops on the wings, and then my Morning Dew over the bumblebee's glasses, so they're a little bit shiny. But that finishes. Oh, and then to top it off, I did use my white gel pen and did a little bit of faux stitching on that black circle, just to kind of tie everything together. And then that finishes off that card. I think it turned out really adorable. I think Smart would have looked better though. Okay, for my next card, I'm going to be using this die from Honeybee Stamps. This is called the Rectangle Window Trio, and it's going to cut out 3 rectangle windows. and then I just trim that white cardstock down. I'm going to go ahead and use my glue and attach my windows to this pattern paper. It has a gradient on it, and I thought it went perfect with the 3 windows. Any excess overhanging, I'm just going to trim off with my scissors. And I thought about using the leftover piece, but then decided not to. But I am going to die cut out 3 more of the white hexagon pieces with white cardstock. I'm going to use my tape runner and add a little tape behind this little window panel, and then I'm going to tape down some of the hexagons to the left and right of my window here. Just kind of figuring out where I want to put it. Now, hindsight, I should have scooted them in just a hair because they did overlap on my finished card. So here's where I should have scooted them in more towards the middle of the panel. Okay, after we have this done, I'm going to go ahead and add foam tape, and then I'm trying to remove the foam tape, but it's not removing on the pattern paper. I tried to remove it because I forgot to put my sentiment on here, but I lined up my foam tape really close together so there was no gap, and I'm hoping that that will give me a nice impression for my sentiment, and it worked out great. So I'm stamping my sentiment that says "You're the bee's knees" in that middle window, and it's stamped beautifully. Okay, for this card I'm going to be using another of the, is it sea glass? Yes, it's the sea glass cardstock. I created a card base with that as well, but I wanted to use the hexagon in the stamp set, but I'm going to ink it up with my watermark ink just for a subtleness in the background. I'm just going to stamp it on the left and the right of my card base, and I'll use all 3 of the honeycomb pieces in the stamp set. Now after we have this done, we'll stamp the 3 little piece here. It's very subtle, and the camera's probably not picking it up too well, but I think it just adds a nice effect. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add our sentiment panel that's fully loaded with foam tape. And then here you can see my little die cut pieces were overhanging just a hair. And so I should have scooted them in a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure they'll still fit in the envelope with them overhanging just a little bit. Okay, for this card we're going to use 3 of the little bumblebees, and we'll just add a piece of foam tape behind each one of those. I think that looks great. And add this last one here. And we're going to adjust this top one just a little bit so it's a little more balanced. And then we're going to add a little sparkle with our Nuvo glitter drops, again White Blizzard. And then I am going to doctor up our little eyeglasses there with my Morning Dew. And then that finishes off that card. I thought about trimming that hexagon that was overlapping with my scissors, but I didn't want to ruin it. Okay, now for my final card today. We're going to make another shaker card. I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says "Be Yourself" on some white cardstock, and I'm going to do the same gradient shading with my Copic markers that we did for our previous card, using the same exact colors. We're just going to shade that in, and then I did fussy cut them out. They were easy to fussy cut out. I wouldn't suggest trying to fussy cut out the inside of the bee because it was a little bit on the smaller side. But that didn't bother me. Okay, I have 2 pieces of pattern paper that I layered together. The polka dot size panel is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then the black and white panel is 3 1/2 inches by 4 3/4. Now I'm using a photo frame die. This photo frame die is from Avery, Elle, and it cuts out like the perfect size photo frame. It is called the Photo Mat die. But after that's cut out, I'm going to stamp the sentiment on the lower portion, and I did let that bee overlap a little bit. It looks kind of funny now, but when it's all together, it'll make a little bit more sense. Okay, like I said, we're going to make a shaker, so I'm going to add my acetate just using my glue. Any excess overhanging I'm just going to trim off, and then we'll add some foam tape behind our little photo frame here. And then for this card, we're going to go ahead and add our sequins directly on top of our card base. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little pile on our card base here. And this one I went a little heavy because I wanted a lot of sparkle here. And then I'll go ahead and add my photo frame right on top. And since again I only used one layer of the foam tape, they stuck a little bit, but I had to shake them loose. But they don't shake as much as they would if you were to double up on your foam tape. Now here's where I'm going to go in and add my bee sentiment. And I'm just overlapping it. So the top portion is on my acetate piece, and then the bottom is on the photo frame. And I think that looks great. Okay, I have 3 little bumblebees left, and then 2 yellow hearts. We're going to add one right next to the bee sentiment. And then the one next to the bee sentiment, I have another one left over. And I kept wanting to fit them on that panel, but I thought the panel was pretty busy. So I ended up later on putting them on the inside of one of the other cards. But I'm going to go ahead and add foam tape behind each one of my little hearts here. And we'll add them. I'm going to add the bigger heart right above the bee. And then this little one right next to the sentiment. And then I thought we needed one more heart. So I'm going to bring in a piece of white scratch paper. We're going to stamp that smaller heart one more time. And then I'll use the same colors that I used to just color that heart in and then fussy cut it out. I'm going to go ahead and remove the release paper and add our final little heart right on top here. Lovely. Okay, now I'm going to add a little sparkle to the little hearts using my aqua shimmer pen, and then I did go over the top of those hearts with the morning dew again, and then I thought we'd add a little bit of sparkle to the B word with my pen, and then I'm going to use the honey gold glitter drops and outline our little bumblebee's wings so they're nice and gold and sparkly. And then that finishes off card number 5. Cute little stamp set. I was so happy about this. I had been on vacation from the beginning of the month, and we just got back, so I'm playing catch up with my card. This video is a little bit late, and I'm sorry about that, guys, but I hope it was worth the wait. So here's all 5 cards that I made today with the Simon Says Stamp July 2019 card kit called Be Yourself. Let me know what you think. I love hearing your comments, guys. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I wish you a fantastic day, and we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.